Hi, Joe. Nice to see you today. Thank you for coming today here to the podcast. Last time that we saw each other was here in Brisbane at the Power of Success event. And
Right.
yeah, so that's the last time we saw you. And I remember that you share a lot of, amazing stories about Reebok and everything that you've done there. So I have a couple of questions for you. And the first one is trying to understand a little bit, you actually, drove Reebok to become number one, sports brand, even, beating Nike and of course Adidas. And you also helped them crack the US market. So, how did actually marketing specifically help you successfully expand the company to a competitive market like the US and also, just bring that brand visibility and reach to make Reebok the number one brand in the world?
In many ways, we got lucky, but in many other ways, we just had to keep going to get lucky. The first task with Reebok was to become a leading brand in the UK because we're a UK brand in the north of England, and we had to find our place where we eventually became number one. And that was a matter of finding our way into the market. We tried numerous things, but eventually we ended up working directly with athletes. All athletes are really part of an athletics club. All these athletics clubs, they were affiliated to the 3As. They produced a handbook, and the handbook they produced had the name and address of every secretary of every club in the country, which is about 400 clubs. So our way into that, we used to go to athletics meetings, but I just wrote a letter to every secretary and offered them a 15% discount. And if somebody wanted to become our agent, then they could have the 15%. And I got over 100 agents on just the first letter. Yeah, eventually after about 6 months, we had 300 agents. So that really drove the brand to become number one running brand.
Amazing. And do you still remember what were some things that you mentioned on that letter? Like how did you actually convince those people to be on board with you in this specific, marketing campaign?
We advertise a lot in a magazine called Athletics Weekly, and so many of the athletes would subscribe. So people knew the brand. So they knew Nike, they knew Adidas, they knew our brand. But then when they could buy it at a discount and somebody in the club was selling it, this was an advantage over athletes going down to town, down to the local sports store. That became an advantage. So I guess mail order, you could say, direct selling mail order. That's how we became number one in the UK. Also, that we could listen to athletes, whatever they wanted. If they had a problem with something, pronation or supination, whatever problems they had, we could actually even do some personalized manufacturing.
Yeah, and that is interesting because you had all this knowledge and experience, of course, for many years working in the industry. How do you see now, from your perspective, the future of marketing? A lot of things have changed. You now personally, you're working way more now in promoting your books, and it's a totally different perspective and type of business. So, how do you see the future of marketing from your background?
Well, of course, it's technology now. We have computers. We didn't have computers. We didn't have smartphones. Today is technology. And whatever we do, and it's moving. Where we're going to go with AI, I don't know. But if you look at that positively, it's going to increase and improve the way you market your product and where you get people to either buy your product or listen to whatever your product happens to be. Now it's all to do with technology. I can only see more and more. I see online sales as being bigger and bigger, but then we now also have malls. High street is no longer that important. Malls give you the visibility. That's the place where you go, and it's entertainment because people today want entertaining. They're less and less spending time at work, so we all want entertaining. There's more and more sport, so more and more people are participating and more people are watching, listening, either on the computers. So marketing these days is just being finding the way you can be visible. Most sports brands now that are performance use the athletes for the visibility and they are the influencers. So,
you know, being an entrepreneur back then and now seeing all the changes that have happened, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs that are starting now?
I don't think much has changed, even from when I started. I think you have to influence your buyer either by using performance athletes, somebody who's well known. They're now used as influencers for all the product, whether it's apparel, whether it's footwear, whether it's playing a sport. This is what you have to influence. The means of influencing now are becoming more opportunities. It used to be you saw a lot of advertising on television in the days of the cinema, which are probably coming back, but now it's on your computer. Now it's on your laptop or whatever. You don't meet people as much these days because you can have a Zoom. You can do that with your telephone, with your mobile, whatever. Do we think that this is going to change much? At the moment, it's difficult to see beyond computers and mobile phones. You know, whether we get three-dimensional, whether these turn into, I don't, that has to do with technology. Somebody will find a way of changing something. My grandfather in 1895, when he set up his company, he didn't know the word influencer, but he knew he had to give his shoes to leading athletes so that people would buy his product. And he probably never knew the word influencer, but he actually used exactly what we do today, and that's use people to influence others to buy the product. So I don't think the basic has changed. It's how you present it, and technology has made this more and more presentable.
What were the tools that you use in your journey to, you know, survive and thrive in business?
What do we do to survive and thrive? Well, we survived quite a few difficult periods, and in the shoemaker book, you probably read them all, but yes, we nearly went out of business on more than one occasion because in those early days, to get people to know your name, which is very important, get people to know your name. Okay, we didn't have computers, we didn't have smartphones. We had to use magazines. We had to use magazines in our early days, and we also had to be present at athletics meetings. We went there, so you promoted by using banners. We had to get back to influencers by using athletes, the best athletes. We had numerous ways of doing this. When marathon running became very big, we developed a company. We called it Reebok Racing Club. So we opened the Reebok Racing Club, and we gave a lot of good athletes shoes and the vest with Reebok Racing Club. These marathons were on in every city around the world, and they're always on television. So we told our athletes, you know, look, you run up front for as long as you can. So for probably 20 miles, they were on television. They didn't win the races, but for 20 miles, Reebok Racing Club. So this was marketing. This was the different ways of doing that. We had that on television for so long, and that was a great way. It's again, it solidified your name, and a lot of people then began to see the name Reebok.
It's always about giving that visibility, making sure that the brand is being seen by people in various creative, different ways, and also then having a good product to back that up. You guys always focus on the quality, which is amazing.
Well, you had to have a good product. I think whatever you do, if you want to become known, you have to know your product. You have to have as good product as anybody. So if your product is good, and then it's just a matter of visibility, and visibility comes in so many different ways, and you've just got to think the best way for you and try these different methods. But influencing, always influencing, that's using people, wearing your product. And that's the good thing about athletics product. We could always put our name on it. I mean, the street shoes, you don't know whose shoe is a street shoe unless you're very observant. But with athletics and sport, we could always put our name on it. And that gave us the opportunity for the visibility.
Amazing. Joe, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure meeting you here in Brisbane and meeting Julie as well. She's lovely. Wishing you guys all the best. Thank you for the time as well, and for all your knowledge.
Let us know when you're on the move, and we're always on the move, as you know, and we certainly will be down in Australia again, probably early next year.
Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.